Alright, so far so good. Now let's handle the nodes. Now we will create a node, a slave node, so we can, the master node, which is Jenkins, will handle it and control it. Click on the manage nodes. So here you can see that we have only one node currently, which is the master node. And actually the master node is the same Jenkins, actually the same Jenkins server, it is the master node. And other nodes will be called slave nodes. Okay, so the master node is Jenkins, keep that in your mind, and the slave node, any other nodes that you will add them here. Okay, so master node will control all the slave nodes as is, as simple as that. All right, so you can see that you have a lot of information that like the architecture, the free disk lock difference, free swap space, free temp space, response time, and so on. And you can configure like the number of executor, the labels, and the usage. And this is something that I already mentioned when we handled the configure system part, that I told you that let's keep these, the number of executors and labels and usage, on the node when we handle the nodes lecture. All right, because actually it is here is better. So the number of executor for this node, which is the master node, is only 2. So any job or any build we want to run, and we want to run it on this node, which is the master node, it will has only 2 executor. So if you run 2 job and each job need 1 executor, it will run 2 jobs only. So if I run the third, it will not work. It will be in a pending state or in a queue until one of the jobs finished running. Okay, so this is the number of executor and the labels actually. So if you want to label this machine with something, so I will need to call it Jenkins, for example, here like this or whatever. And you can see the usage here, which is use this node as much as possible, or only build jobs with label expression matching this node. Okay, so it depends on you. So if I read here, you can see more about this, because the use as much as possible is the default setting. And in this mode, Jenkins uses the node freely. As you can see, whenever there is a build that can be done by using this node, Jenkins will use it. Okay, so any build can be run through this. Or if you need a specific build jobs, so with this label to be matching, so this node, which is the master or any other node, cannot be used by Jenkins unless it match the label expression. So if I click in here, so the job, the test2 job or test job 1 that we created, must have the label, which is, for example, test. Test job can run only on the label of test, which is this node. All right, now just I'm telling you, actually it's up to you how to use it actually. So let's use as much as possible, and here you can disable defer wipe out and the environment variable if you want to add environment variable here actually. Add as much as you want. Now let's start creating the nodes. Actually, this is the most exciting part about nodes. So from here you can see that we have a new node. Let's create. Here you put the node name. Let's name it, for example, Ubuntu -node. And if you want this agent to be permanent, so you can see that adds a plain permanent agent to Jenkins. This is called a permanent, as you can see, because Jenkins doesn't provide higher level of integration with these agents, such as dynamic provisioning or whatever. Okay, so you can just click as a permanent agent. Okay, so here you have all the information about creating the node. So the name of the node, the description for this node, number of executor, and this is something we already saw and we talked about actually. Remote root directory, and this is something we will handle right away. So here is the remote root directory for this node. So, and this, don't worry, we will handle it right away, but keep with me for now. Here is the label for what this node will be, and use as much as possible, or you can use only when build job with label expression, the one we provided here. The launch method, launch agent by connecting it to the master, or launch agent via execution of command on the master, or launch agents via SSH. All right, it's up to you, but actually it is better to use launch agent via SSH like this, and then you provide the host, which is the IP address or the domain name for this node, which is the Ubuntu node. And actually this is something we will handle right away. Then you will choose the credential, and this is why I told you on the credential lecture, it's better to have the credential on the node part, because we can connect the point with each other. So here you will understand it more better actually. This is will be handled right away. I'm just showing you all the fields, then we will start the hands-on. All right, okay. So here the host key verification, you can put non-host key or manual, and here you provide the SSH key, or manual trusted, or no verifying verification strategy. Now this is actually very important here. One thing I want to mention, as sometimes when you create a new node on Jenkins, it gives you problems like the host key is not working, or we cannot connect, or whatever. So sometimes the work around it actually is to put no verification, no verifying verification strategy, and this will work like a charm. All right, but for now leave it as is. It's okay, unless you didn't have any problem for Jenkins to connect to this node, to this slave node, leave it as non-host file verification strategy. Now you can see the advanced that we have here, like the port, Java path, JVM option, but most of the cases doesn't require you to change any of these. Actually leave them as is, but unless you have a specific criteria, you can edit that as well. It's up to you. The availability, so you can see keep this agent as online as much as possible, or you can see here the bring this agent online according to a schedule. You put the cron scheduler here and the uptime schedule as well, or bring this agent online only when demand and take offline when idle. So you can make it idle, or you can make it offline when it is not in use. Only when needed you can run it here. Okay, and the node properties, disable, defer, environment variables, the tool location, which is something we already saw. Okay, now this is the theory part. Now let's start with the real hands-on, and this is the most exciting part actually. All right, now let's start. Now the first thing, now I have this node actually, the Ubuntu server on AWS. I have it as a T2 micro, so it's free, no worries if you are interested to make it like me, or if you have any other virtual machines, it's okay, it will work fine. So locally you can just provide the IP address here on the hostname. All right, and now this is my example. I'm telling you again, everything will work fine, but the most important thing here, you need to make sure that you have a connectivity between the Jenkins server and that slave node, and in my case between the EC2 instance for Jenkins and the EC2 instance for the slave node. Okay, in your case, if you have it on your VM, the Jenkins server VM with the slave VM, you have a connectivity, so no restriction, no firewall, or nothing. All right, okay, now let's start. Now the first thing, we want to enable the name, then the executor, then here you need to put the remote root directory. Okay, but before that actually we have the credential part here. So actually it's better if we go to the credential. So from here, manage Jenkins, yeah, let's leave for now, go to the manage credentials, and let's put it on the main scope. It's okay, it's just for testing. Now it's up to you how to architect things and how to put the security in your mind, the criteria or whatever. Now add credential. Now the credential, because we need to access as a SSH connection, so we need SSH username with a private key. The ID here, as I mentioned, it is generated by Jenkins, so leave it as is. The description, the SSH for the slave machine or for the slave node. Okay, the username here, this is the username for this SSH key on that machine. So in my case, I have Ubuntu 18, so the default user will be Ubuntu, for example. Well, actually it is okay, it's up to you. If you need to create a new user actually and provide and generate a new SSH key and provide it here, it's okay, everything will work. But I'm telling you on the default cases. So in my case, I have this, which is Ubuntu, and the private key I will enter it here as an add. All right, now this is the machine actually. Okay, so if I type ls, you can see that. If I type ls-la, you can see that we have the .sh directory. So let's go to it, and here if I type ls-la, you can see that we have only authorized key, so no private and no public key. So how to do that actually? Just type the ssh-key gen, as simple as that. Press enter the file which you save, this file which is the private key, yes, which is the default one, home ubuntu.sh id, the passphrase if you want, or empty. I don't need any passphrase for now, no passphrase, and it is generated successfully. So if I go to s.ssh, you can see that now we have .ssh and the dot public key. So we have the public and the private key pairs. Okay, now I'm just showing you, well actually the private key must be secure, but I'm just showing you as like this. I will need to cat it and I will show it to you. It's okay, I will delete this node after this lecture. I'm just showing you how to do things. Okay, so cat it. So as you can see now, so just copy and paste. All right, okay, now let's paste it here. Actually, make sure that you have the same syntax, which is the dashes here and the end of the dashes. Don't forget to put them because this will not work. Provide the passphrase if you have, but we didn't provide anything. And this user actually is Ubuntu, we saw that. And let's click on OK. Now we have this, and as you can see, the name is Ubuntu, the SSH for the slave node. All right, and here the SSH for the slave node, this is the description. Well, actually you can update it if you need to replace the private key. It's okay, you can just replace it and put the new one. All right, and if you need to provide a passphrase, you can update here. The username, if you want to change it, you can change it, and the description as well. So as you can see, the ID is generated by Jenkins actually, so everything is good for now. All right, now let's head to the manage Jenkins and manage nodes from here, and manage nodes and clouds. So new node and permanent, let's name it Ubuntu node for now, or anything, depends on you. The name is Ubuntu node, the description put anything, the executor I will put now 1 for now. Remote root directory, in my case I will put the home directory for Ubuntu, the user Ubuntu, which is home Ubuntu, like this. The labels, let's name it Ubuntu node, or let's name it Ubuntu for example. It's okay, it's up to you actually, but this will be used right away after we create the node. I will show you how to use labels with the jobs, with Jenkins jobs. Okay, but keep with me, let's put it as Ubuntu for now, or let's put it as a slave, as you can see, without as capital, yeah, as small slave. All right, and the usage use as much as possible, or if you need label expression matching this node. For now, let's put it as much as possible. The launch method, here we will use launch agent via SSH. The host, I will provide the IP address for this machine, and I will get it from AWS actually. Yeah, here it is. Now I have the public IP address here. Well, actually, if you have a connectivity as a private IP address, it's okay, it will work. But make sure you have connectivity between Jenkins server or Jenkins EC2 instance and the Ubuntu or the slave EC2 instance. This is the same for the VMs actually. Okay, now for the credential, let's use the Ubuntu. Yeah, and here let's leave it for now known host file verification strategy. Now again, I want to mention that again, if you face that you cannot connect from Jenkins to this node, to this slave node, and you made sure that you have a connectivity but still you cannot connect to it. Now this is a common problem actually, or common issue, that you need to, the host key verification strategy must be to non-verifying verification strategy. Okay, so just choose that and connect, then you can return it back to non-host key or host file verification strategy. So I'm just letting you know if you face that issue. Now we will see that if we face it right now, it is better if we face it, so I can show you. All right, now we don't have any advanced option, we don't have availability, and no environment variable or a thing. Okay, so let's save. Now you can see that we have it here, but still it is disconnected or offline. So if I click on it, you can see that I need to relaunch the agent from here, and I will launch it like this. All right, you will see that we have this problem, which is retrying in 15 seconds. There are 10 more retries left. All right, so connection timeout. Okay, now, well, actually there are two possible reasons for that. Either I don't have a connectivity between Jenkins and the slave node, or the same thing that I told you about the verification non-host key. So for now I will test that, and I want to relaunch it again. Okay, now actually we got the same timeout issue. All right, now this is something not with the non-verification. Now actually maybe we don't have a connectivity between Jenkins and the slave node. Now if this didn't work, because we actually forgot something, now we need to connect to the slave node and put the public key for this private key pair as an authorized key. Now, actually, we forgot that, but it's okay. Well, actually, it's good to see that as a practical way. So if you face that, you will not get confused at all. You will solve it right away, right? Okay. So from here, you can see that we have the authorized keys. So if I cat this authorized key, you can see that we have only this public key, which is the, as you can see, the TT, which is for the EC2 key pair, the SSH when I launch this instance. So what I need to add for this actually is the public key, that the public key pair for the private key. Okay. Well, I'm assuming that you are knowing the SSH key pair and how it connects and how it works and so on. Okay. So that's why I'm not explaining more and more. Okay. So let's cat this. All right. Now this, I want to copy and paste this from here, copy, and I want to, using Vim editor or whatever text editor, authorized keys, and here I will put O, then I will paste it here. So this is the public key for the private key. And why is this? Because we are using this private key, the one we created, and we put it inside Jenkins to be used as the private key. So on the authorized key on this slave machine, we must put the public key pair. Okay. Now again, I'm assuming that you know the SSH key and SSH, how it works, the SSH key pair and how SSH works, the client server, whatever. Okay. So I'm not explaining more. All right. So let's copy this and now let's try it out. Okay. Now everything is the same. Let's leave it as is and let's relaunch again. Okay, now you see that we have this issue, as you can see. So one thing that we forgot to do actually is installing the Java 8 on that slave machine. So as you can see, error, Java not found on this slave, blah, 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 and so on. Okay, so this is actually we forgot, but it's good to have that as a practice actually. So you learned by practice that you need to install Java 8. All right, now let's go there and install it. All right, here, this is Ubuntu. We need to install Java 8. And I actually already provide you with the commands for that. Now let's try again, actually. And actually, it's already, because of the timeout and retrying every 15 seconds. So as you can see, now we are connected successfully. So from here, you can see that we have two nodes, the master node, and we have the Ubuntu node, which is something we already configured here, as you can see. All right, now let's head to the test job, for example. Go to the configure. Now I don't need this test job to be run on master Jenkins, but I want it to be on the Ubuntu. How to do that? Actually, I can do by using this. On the general tab, you have this option, restrict where this project can be run. So if I click here, you can see that now we have the label expression. So if I put slave, for example, here, you can see that, yeah, we have it here. So don't forget that you need to remove the white spaces because this will give you errors. Yeah, label slave match one node. The permission or the restriction provided by plugin may further reduce that list. Okay, so the label slave here, you have it. So we have that will be on the slave machine. So for example, if I create a text file, let's execute a shell because this is a Unix, and I create touch it underscore worked.txt, for example, and I save it. Then I build the job. Yeah, it runs successfully. As you can see, yeah, it runs successfully. Now, if I head to the Ubuntu server here, and I go to the home directory that we specified actually, then inside it, we will find something called the workspace. And actually you saw that. So here, the workspace, you can see that we have the test job. If I go to it and I type ls, you can see that it worked. And as you can see, it worked.txt. So yeah, the job runs successfully and not on arbitrary nodes or on the master nodes, which means Jenkins. No, I select which node I want this job to be run. All right, and this is actually what makes Jenkins very powerful. And actually, this is the real thing here actually. So this is how you use Jenkins specific jobs for specific nodes and specific servers. All right, so you have a staging server, you need to run this on this staging server. You have a production server, you have a testing server, development, or whatever. All right, and you don't need anyone to run anything, okay, on anywhere.